The House Sergeant at Arms and the Capitol Police are investigating Congressman Jamaal Bowman. He's from New York, and he pulled a fire alarm right before the House vote was about to happen on a bill to avert a government shutdown. And you know how important that was over the weekend. Well, this Democrat used to be a teacher and a middle school principal. So you know he knows what a fire alarm looks like. Yet he claims he didn't know pulling the fire alarm would force an evacuation of the building. Plus, he says he thought it was just a door handle. Well, here's what it sounded like. You see all the camera gear there. I mean, everybody had to leave. Journalists, anybody in the building had to get out. Republicans not buying this was just an accident. Some say Congressman Bowman should be expelled from the House.
Claims that it was a mistake, thinking that it would open the door. That doesn't really pass the sniff test.
If you believe what Bowman is saying, you're just buying into the blinded lie that he's saying.
I would think a principal of a middle school would know the difference between a fire alarm and a button that you push to open a door.
We'll have a full investigation, but think about how other people were punished who they believe done something wrong inside that Capitol.
It is an appropriate next step to make sure that he is held accountable, that there are consequences for his actions.
Well, and I want to know, were there resources that were spent to get all of those first responders, those Capitol Police, anybody else who showed up? Does he have to write a check to reimburse them? I got questions. One editorial says Bowman's obstruction of Congress is a crime, perhaps 3 times over. Another calling his stunt absurd, even for the Democrats. Today's New York Post, here's the cover, summing it up with a photo of the fire alarm and the caption, "Does this look like a door handle?" Well, no, it does not. Will Cain, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. What is this about, Will?
This is about obstructing an official proceeding, Harris. This is about playing dumb or being dumb. It's about being a liar or playing like a liar. I don't know. You're either extremely dumb and you're incapable of understanding what a red box with the white letters imprinted F-I-R-E mean, or you are lying to your constituents about your inability to read the word fire. He's one or the other, possibly both, dumb or a liar. And from my understanding, obstructing an official proceeding is, a high crime and misdemeanor, deprival of due process, jailed until eternity. This is what we know based upon precedent. So here we have now Jamaal Bowman, who is attempting to delay in a vote, again, or he's so dumb, this is like, I've got a microphone. Is this a light switch? He's so dumb he can't tell the difference between really clear objects. And the funniest part, Harris, is that those who want to apologize for them, either Democrats or, of course, the running cover mainstream media, are now having to pretend they, too, don't know what a fire alarm is. First, they were forced into a situation where they have to pretend like they don't know what a woman is, and now they have to pretend like they don't know what a fire alarm is.
That is inexplicable. Here's one posture, and this is interesting. Americans are apparently getting used to the dysfunction in our government. The New York Times says this is how they know in this op-ed. Judging by the Google search trends, Americans going in the days leading up to the possible shutdown, so basically over the weekend, were more curious about who shot Tupac Shakur, who might win the Golden Bachelor, and who would claim the giant Powerball jackpot. Those are probably not signs of public confidence. Instead, they may indicate that America at this point assumes that Washington actually will go off that cliff. Will?
My takeaway is a little bit different. I think the American public is complacent about these types of stories because not that they're certain we'll go over the cliff, but that they're certain that the government will continue to function as it always does, as a self-licking ice cream cone. I mean, I think most of Americans look at impeachment proceedings and go, nothing will come of it. No one will be held accountable. And people look at this brinksmanship over the debt ceiling and think, the government won't really shut down. They'll strike an 11th hour deal. And why would Americans think that? Because they do. They always do. There's always enough. The government always finds a way to continue to fund itself.
2 years ago, 3 years ago. Remember, we've seen shutdown, actually. I think it was 2018, maybe? No, we've seen it on the Democrats' watch. Yeah.
And how long was that? Like a couple of days?
Months. It was a little bit.
The government shut down for a couple.
It was a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think that the American public understands. Look, I think that you have a really difficult situation. It's embodied within the Republican Party. We need extreme, drastic measures to get our spending under control. As long as interest rates continue to fly up like this, we are looking, just like a household income, at absolute bankruptcy here as a nation. We do also understand that government, by its very nature, is a business of compromise. So the question is, how can we get to something that really staves off this impending bankruptcy of entitlements and spending and make real reform to America while convincing a party that thinks the only way out is spending more, that we need to make a deal? That is the problem we are sitting in. I don't think we have any real risk of our government shutting down for any extended period of time.
All right, I'm going to fact check myself. Will Cain, let's move to this. New York State and New York City are dealing with a tiny fraction of the illegal immigrant crisis hitting the border states like Texas and Arizona. But it's enough to get Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul of New York to start to sing a different tune now. The sanctuary state leader now is going after the Biden administration's border policies.
We want them to have a limit on who can come across the border. It is too open right now. People coming from all over the world are finding their way through, simply saying they need asylum, and the majority of them seem to be ending up in the streets of New York, and that is a real problem for New York City.
One editorial hit Hochul for suddenly realizing America has a border crisis. It calls her current stance too little, too late. The city is a migrant magnet, and it will remain so as long as its right to shelter policy is in effect. And until it's gone, New York's poverty pleadings will be taken seriously by no one. Governor Hochul apparently has an ally in former President Clinton. Watch.
Up here, and we're supposed to shelter people who can't get work permits for 6 months. And there's just we need to change that. It's broken, and we need to fix it.
So he wants to infuse more people into the workforce that we cannot vet because we're outnumbered at this point at the border. And as you fan out clearly in some of these blue-led cities, we don't have the opportunity to properly vet them. But he wants to infuse them even more into our lives.
Yeah. In other words, issue an invitation through an incentive. You're going to end up with a job in America. You know, Hochul is fascinating, Harris. There's a clip running around the internet from Hochul in 2021 where she's really pandering to the idea that the Statue of Liberty says, give us you're tired, you're weak, you're poor, and you're hungry. You know, and therefore, send us everyone, she says, who's a refugee, send us everyone illegally. Of course, the message of the Statue of Liberty and its neighboring island in Ellis Island was come legally to the United States of America, not illegally through an open border. 2 years ago, she's issuing an invitation, open borders, send us everyone. Now she's having to live under the real-world implications of her pandering 2 years ago, and she's like, oh, maybe that was a bad idea. As is so many progressive theories and ideas, when applied in practicality and in real life, people buckle under the pressure, crime, illegal immigration, and go, maybe we need to dial this back. Or maybe you should have dialed back your rhetoric for the past several years.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what they've done to the police forces across the country, I mean, all of it. And I wonder what the current mayor of New York City is going to say about his campaign promise to let illegals vote. I mean, wasn't that part of you being a sanctuary place? And is he taking all of that lingo back now? All right, Elon Musk, I'm sure we all watched it, his border visit, posting some sobering statistics now. Quote, U.S. Border Patrol reported the highest number of recorded illegal immigrants in history at more than 260,000 this month. And those numbers have been confirmed by the CBP sources to Fox News. That puts total encounters at the southwest border for fiscal year 2023 more than 2.4 million. That's far beyond what we saw even last year. We are going in a dangerous direction without the resources to vet, with terrorists that we know of, that we're at least being told of, coming across our border, and the gaps in the wall, the gotaways. 1.5 million of those people, we don't even know who they are.
Right. I don't know what city or what town, what metropolis in America is about 2.4 million, but I always find that instructive. I know Elon Musk said for the month there was 260,000 border encounters. That's just the one we know. Probably double when we factor in those that we don't can't account for, don't know, which he said is essentially the population of Wyoming, 500,000. And that really kind of crystallizes it to me, to constantly look at this like, we just imported another Wyoming. We just imported another Dallas-Fort Worth, whatever it may be. And to think of the, look, we know all the potential, I think we know, Harris, all the potential implications, rising crime, buckling public services, but also deep, deep cultural change about the United States of America and our way of living, which we do have a culture and a way of living. And people that come here legally usually sign up for assimilation and signing up for that way of living. But this is deep, deep change to the United States of America with no policy. It's not, there's no forethought to this. It's just like, hey, come on, bring them all in. We all sound like Kathy Hochul 2 years ago, right? And we're going to wake up and sound like Kathy Hochul today. We don't have a nation. We don't have a nation state without a border, period.
When you say a Wyoming, think about it this way. With 2.5 million, that's 10 Wyomings. That's 10 extra states. Yeah. And by the way, I fact-checked myself. It was 2018, the last shutdown, and it did go on for several weeks. But it's been a while, Will, and I could imagine, as you were making your point, maybe a lot of people have forgotten about that because, for the most part, the government
Well, you fact-checked me, too, and I appreciate
flexes.
it.
No, of course.
The reality was between
it's my
what
job.
we both thought.
And I always loving it. Always loving doing my job. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.